Well, Sandra Brothers is with us, whose new book, Memoirs of a Haunted Life, is a concrete mix of memoir, biography, and journal of the paranormal. How are you doing today, by the way?
I am doing pretty well.
Great. So, of course, this book, Memoirs of a Haunted Life, it's very much based on your own life, isn't it?
Yes. Ever since I was little, I've had very strange occurrences happen, and I actually stumbled into exploring the paranormal with equipment and stuff by accident.
Yeah. And one of those things in the book is EVPs, which I can't remember exactly what it stands for, but it's like something like electronic voice paranormal or something.
Electronic voice phenomenon.
Nearly. There you go. So how does that actually work? Because, most of the time when you record something, you don't pick up ghosts. Is it a specific type of recorder?
Yeah, actually, I find that I have better voices recorded on the cheapest digital voice recorder that I could find. I'm not sure why that is, but they seem to be more clear on that. But so really, I found it to be any kind of voice recorder. I've even recorded things while making a video by accident on the phone, but the voice recorders, the cheaper the better, really.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting because on the one hand, maybe the cheaper ones are worse at filtering out all the background stuff. Maybe that's how it works. But then at the same time, you'd expect the cheaper ones to not be able to pick up as broad a frequency.
Right. Yeah. I think the difference for me is I have some more upscale voice recorders, and when you're listening to them back, the EVP voices caught sound too much like our own voices. And it's hard to figure out which one's a ghost and which one's not. But the cheaper voice recorders seem to be able to separate that better.
And can this happen to everyone if everyone picked up a really cheap voice recorder? Or do you have to have some sort of ability, or do you have to kind of concentrate to the recording to actually sort of listen out for it?
No, anybody can do this. I actually used to conduct a lot of people used to come over my house and try it for themselves. They were like, "Oh my God, this is so cool," or I'd take them out or whatever. But one thing that I did notice is when you upload the voices from the recorder onto like a computer, you can see that the voices are actually in a hertz range that we can't hear or speak in. So that's a fail safe kind of also.
Yeah. So is it a higher frequency or a lower frequency?
Both.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's either it's too high or it's going to be too low. But it's going to be out of range.
Yeah. What determines whether it's high or low? Is it just random?
It seems to be pretty random. From what I've seen. That's something that I definitely want to try to figure out more, and experiment with, because I found that really interesting.
So what gave you the idea to write a book about your life in this way?
So my experiences and the way I do things are very unique. And I actually took things a step further and studied like the moment of death and the afterlife on all spectrums. So I wasn't just this ghost hunter going through saying, move something, or something, which I have done, but I was more curious on trying to figure out how it works. So from that side of it, I've done a lot of unique things, and people were always telling me, you should write a book about this because it's so informational, and I have so many unique aspects of what I've done. So that's what I finally did it.
And you've certainly had a very interesting life, and there's so much stuff in there, and yet it feels like so easy to read, and it doesn't feel like it takes ages,
Yeah, I wanted it to be an easier read for people, you
Yeah,
know. So,
absolutely. And was there any stuff in your life maybe that you didn't end up including?
um, a couple of things that were more personal, but they were relating to patients that I've cared for.
Yeah.
So I didn't put like all of their stuff in there, especially with the HIPAA laws and everything like that. But I have, I mean, even since then, I have figured out so much more. So there's definitely going to be a two coming
Ooh.
out eventually. It's just, yeah,
Yeah.
it never ends in my life. I tell you what.
And when can we expect the second one? Do you think that would be well into the future, given that this one actually pretty much ends last year, doesn't it?
Yeah, I would actually expect the second one within 1 to 2 years.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah.
So, how will you manage to fill that?
Yeah. Well, I have some new experiences and exploring the dimensional planes, and
Ooh.
I've figured out a couple of things with ghosts in particular and what's good and what's not so good. I've kind of
Yeah.
started to figure that one out, which I was so unsure in this first book, and
Yeah.
there's more aspects added to everything and more experiences that are a little more deep,
Mm.
I think, for the second one. So
Yeah.
should be interesting.
Yeah. So, what would you say has been the weirdest experience that you've had?
Well, okay. Um, the weirdest would probably be the alien encounters that I
Mm.
had two of those. That was really weird. Like, what was that about, right?
Yeah.
But then the other one that was kind of cool and weird was when I went over to my buddy's house because he said maybe my house is haunted. Maybe you can figure that out, because he kept misplacing things or something, or things kept being moved.
Yeah.
So I set a lighter on his mantle, and we looked at it and we asked it to move it, and all it looked like an invisibility cloak went over it,
Mm.
and it vanished, and it ended up upstairs on his nightstand. But we saw it was like a cloak going over it, just started disappearing.
Yeah.
It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's so strange, and that's just one of many
Yeah.
stories in the book that seem to defy logical sense. And there's so much stuff as a reader, you kind of think she can't be making all this stuff up, surely.
Right. I know. Yeah, it is interesting. I do find that some people seem to attract these things more than other
Mm.
people. Yeah, so I mean, like my dad, for instance, he's gone his entire life without experiencing a thing,
Mm.
and except for when I was around.
Yeah.
Then he got a little spooked, but yeah, it that's interesting too. So
Mm.
I don't know why that is. Yeah, I'm gonna maybe put that in my second book. I'm
Mm.
actually going through exploring that right now. So
Yeah, I was going to ask why you think it happens to some people but not others. I mean, of course, in the book, you have a lot of ghosts following you around, saying
yeah.
that you're the light. Did you ever manage to work out what it was about you that was so attractive to them?
Um I think so. But what's interesting is it seems that people that are mediums or something like that, like I know everybody and their cousin thinks they're a medium or this, that, sort of thing, but it's really interesting. It seems like those kind of people, whether they want to attract it or not, they attract it. But
Mm.
also I notice people that are more sensitive emotionally
Yeah.
seem to attract things. So yeah, I'm exploring that right now. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. And I suppose, I think as the book went on, maybe this became less or so, but there's a part of you that sort of has a passion for paranormal things. It wasn't like this is some sort of bad thing that all these
Right.
ghosts are hanging around.
Yeah. So my whole thing was, well, I have a scientific thinking mind.
Yeah.
Like my dad's really intelligent and like scientific, and once I had my first like string of experiences, I'm like, whoa, this is like the biggest discovery ever. Like, why aren't more scientists on this, you know? And so I wanted to study the heck out of it as best as I knew how. I mean, I'm not a scientist, but I learned a lot of things along the way, and I really wish that one day I can work with a scientist on this, because that would be awesome. So, yeah.
That's the thing. I suppose, would you say the majority of scientists would be quite skeptical of your experiences?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So
even if I wanted to like give them the tools and show them,
yeah,
like, I don't want any money. Just come look at this with me. This is pretty cool, you know. So.
Yeah. And how have your sort of clients been as well? Are they quite skeptical to begin with, or a lot of the time do they actually come to you?
Yeah, some of them are. Yeah, absolutely. But a lot of them, you know, some want help for things. Whether it just be something as simple as connecting with a loved one, or my house is haunted, help me. You know, or they're just curious and really skeptical and just want to dabble around and see what's going on with it.
Yeah. So how long did this book take you to write?
It took me 2 years because I'm chronically ill. So it was actually hard for me to like sit up in a sitting position during that time. I'm a little bit better now with that aspect. But for a while there, I was bedbound for a couple of years. So it took me a while to write it.
You released it at the end of last year, didn't you? So did COVID help, or did that not make much of a difference to your life?
It didn't make much of a difference because I was already kind of a homebody. Because of, you know, chronic illness, but but maybe it did kind of like, maybe I just got really bored and I was like, hey, I'm gonna do this. I'm saving money. I'm gonna go for it. You know, so maybe that played a little bit of a role. Yeah,
absolutely. And are you glad that it's out now and you've got some sort of documentation of your life?
Yeah, I'm really glad also, not just to share my experience, but also because there's, I think, a lot of ideas in there that can help others who are paranormal enthusiasts or, you know, want to be in the field in that thing, or like help people with it or explore it. There's a lot of really good insight in there that might help them.
Yeah, and I suppose there might be some people going through some similar struggles that you went through in parts of your book that could maybe get some help from that. Yeah,
that's what my hope was. That's the main reason, I think, why I wanted to do this book, which is now probably going to be a series. But I feel like it can help a lot of people. Plus, it's actually just, the experiences are so wild, you know, some of them. So it's entertaining plus maybe influential in a good way.
Yeah. And what's the feedback been like so far? Have you had any sort of comments from people that it's helped?
Yeah, actually, I'm kind of popular now on TikTok, and people have been commenting to me and messaging me about my book, and they're like, oh my God, thank you for this book. It helped me so much. And now I know what not to do, you know, to get myself, you know, stuck in something that's not good, you know, and things. So yeah, from time to time, I get those comments. Yeah.
Did you ever have to exaggerate stories to make them more interesting for the book, or did you make everything 100% true all of the time?
Yeah, I made everything 100% right on. I actually made sure to not exaggerate because, I mean, so much of that, though, some of it just sounds so out there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and for it to happen so frequently like that, all these experiences, but it was as chaotic as it sounds. So,
Yes, that's the thing.
yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of these things, it would be hard to exaggerate, wouldn't it? Because they're so out there, as you say.
Yeah, you have to be like really imaginative, I think.
Yeah,
But yeah.
yeah. And early on in the book, you talked about how you could predict bad things that were going to happen, and that didn't really seem to come up as much, if at all, later in the book. Do you
Yeah.
think that was just a sort of childhood thing mainly?
Yeah, it seemed to be before I knew I was a medium or anything like that, it just started out like that.
Yeah.
And there are times where I can still predict bad things within like my family and things like that. But also, I have been doing it with world stuff lately.
Oh.
So it's been coming back. So that's going to be part of book 2, I think. It's kind of the reason why I blew up on TikTok with some of my predictions that ended up happening, like word for word. So it's kind of
Wow.
spooky, you know,
Yeah.
because I'm like, okay, what's going on now?
Yeah.
What next, you know? But yeah, I think I'm going to have a lot to write about
Yeah.
that also.
What world things did you manage to predict then?
The war in
Oh,
Ukraine
wow.
going on. I made a video on TikTok on it was actually Christmas Eve.
Hmm.
And I was outside. I'm like, look, guys, like, I don't normally say anything like this, but I am feeling a lot of stuff. I pick up energies from trees, which sounds really another bizarre thing, but it's almost like the trees sort of send information to each other's root systems from around the planet,
Hmm.
which is weird. I don't know how that works, but um, I was having visions of I knew it was either Ukraine or somewhere near Ukraine,
Hmm.
and I knew it had to do with Russia. And I was seeing this war starting and them coming in along the lines. And I suck at timelines. I
Yeah.
can never tell when this is going to happen, you know. But when it actually happened months later, my TikTok blew up, and I've been doing some things since then also, but
Yeah. That's
that was pretty
interesting.
crazy.
It's
Yeah.
interesting that it happened on Christmas Eve, because that's exactly 2 months before, isn't it?
Yeah, that is true. And there has been always a thing with me predicting things with the number 2. I don't know, it's either 2 days, 2 weeks, or 2 months. So that's
Yeah.
weird. I'm not sure why that is,
Yeah.
but
Is there anything that you've predicted that hasn't happened yet, but you think will?
um let me see. Yeah, actually 2 days ago, 2 days ago, I was feeling something else. I didn't really focus in on it quite yet, but it was something that has to do with it's a natural thing, like a natural disaster of some sort, but it
Yeah.
felt like it was something to do with the sky.
Ooh.
I'm not exactly sure yet.
Yeah. That could be like ash from a volcano,
It could be
or
a lot of things. Like, I don't
yeah,
even know, like at this point, but I mean, that one's
hurricane.
pretty vague for now. Um,
Yeah.
Maybe it's a solar flare or something. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know, but yeah, it's
Let's hope
weird.
it's not some sort of apocalypse.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be like an apocalypse, but
Yeah.
maybe something weird. I
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I either get it like really, really, really intense on, or it's like some really weird, vague feeling, and then it happens, but I can't tell exactly what exactly it is sometimes. So it's like weird. I don't know.
And what is the message that you think or that you hope people will get from this book?
Yeah, I hope the main message is that not everything is as it seems.
Mm.
None of us are experts. I'm not an expert. Nobody's an expert, because really at the end of the day, we still have no clue what the heck anything is.
Yeah.
There are dark things out there that hide and pretend to be good things, and to be wary of that. Not just go in blindly like I did,
Yeah.
Get yourself into trouble. So that's important, I think, because that's happened to so many different people. And it wreaks havoc on someone's life. So, yeah.
Yeah. And, of course, you've got the sequel coming up, hopefully in a couple of years. Do you think you would write a completely different book that's not to do with this at all, or do you like writing about your life in this way?
No, I think I like to stick with the whole life thing.
Yeah.
Because, the more my life goes on, the more experiences pile up and the more knowledge I gain. So I think it'll be pretty cool to just make a whole series of what's been going on.
Yeah. Well, this book is called Memoirs of a Haunted Life. It's by Sandra Brothers. And where are we able to find it?
On Amazon right now. It's on Kindle and hardcover, and it will soon be available for audiobook.
Oh, that's exciting. Who's going to do the audiobook?
Me. I actually do voiceover.
Oh, wow, that's incredible. It's great to get it from the author themselves, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially when it's an autobiography, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. Well, many thanks for joining us on the show today. It's been great to have you here.
Yes, thanks for having me.